coming out this evening. I know it's a Saturday and you probably had other things that you could have gone and done, so I really appreciate you coming out here to spend it with me and learn more about what we stand for here at the Martz campaign. A lot of days, I can hardly believe how I find myself in this position to be here speaking in front of you all myself. I actually grew up right here out in a small family farm out in Pierceville, Indiana, so just a little ways down the road here. Pierceville, Indiana, for those who don't know, is a really tiny town. It's basically a post office and then a little neighborhood across the railroad tracks. We oftentimes get labeled Milan, Indiana, because that's the real town beside us. I grew up down the country road that runs past that post office on a small family farm where we grew all kinds of produce. My favorite was our tomatoes and watermelons. They had the best flavor I've ever had, and I'm still fighting to find that same flavor. And we raised chickens. In my family, I'm the second oldest of 6 kids, and we were all homeschooled for the majority of our lives. Growing up, I always considered my brothers and sisters and my mom and dad to be my best friends because that's who I spent most of my days with. And, I've always had a spirit about me where I like to stand up for people. And I think a part of that part of me must shine through because oftentimes when I'm at a playground, whether it's with my daughter now or back when I was a big sister to those 5 other siblings, other younger children would always come up to me and ask me for help when somebody was making them feel lesser than or mistreating them. Even though I've always loved standing up for others so much, I actually have always had a deep fear of public speaking. And then later on, I go to Purdue University. And when I stepped foot into my first speech classroom, I just about lost consciousness again, knowing that I was going to have to get up not only once, but multiple times in front of this group of people and talk to them all publicly. It was terrifying. Despite these adverse feelings about public speaking, I actually became more drawn to it with each brave step forward that I took, pushing through that discomfort to do what was actually required for my classes. I started Purdue as a math education major, but I actually ended up changing it to communications when I was in my second year at college there because I realized how much I loved learning about people and how to speak to them more effectively. As I entered my senior year at Purdue, I realized that for me and my soul, the spirit that drives me, creating persuasive marketing materials was not going to be enough for how I wanted to use my voice. And so in my senior year at Purdue, I actually decided that law school was where I needed to go to further use my voice in a more amplified way to speak up for others around me. Seeing my grandpa, who was also an attorney, and he represented families who suffered tragic loss as a result of medical malpractice, and how he was able to bring some amount of justice to families who had to go through those deep harms, I could see the path forward of elevating this voice even more in a way that could help more people beyond just mere marketing ability. And originally, I went into law because I wanted to represent those who are harmed by the worst crimes that occur in our society. But I actually later changed to criminal defense because of the need that I saw in the other side of cases when it comes to substance abuse problems. And when we're talking about criminal defense, there's really a deep need for more lawyers in the trenches who will work hard for everyone, regardless of the allegations that they're facing, and who's going to be a fierce advocate for constitutional rights. Because that is something that is at the very core of our country, and we all need to be caring and fighting for the protection of every day. Then, as I worked on this side of defense in criminal cases, I started to see I needed to amplify the use of my voice again. I worked minimum wage in serving jobs all through high school, all through college, and all through law school. And despite the fact that it took me 7 years to complete that track, minimum wage still has not been raised since. It's still $7.25 an hour, just as it was when I first started that career in these working, laboring jobs. No wonder so many people in society feel undervalued when they're out here working 40 hours plus a week and they still can't make enough money to live on their own, much less dream about other options for their futures. I see how there are so many people, so many carers in our society, social workers, leaders in our rural communities who want so desperately to help people in ways that will help them turn their lives around, but they simply don't have enough manpower and funding to reach every person who really needs that help. I come across so many people, young and middle-aged, who have beautiful ideas of their own businesses that they want to start, farms that they want to run, or higher education that they want to go pursue for themselves, but they just can't see an accessible path forward because of how unaffordable it is and how high living costs are in this day and age. Most people are just working to survive. They're not working to truly live. Regardless, rural Indiana is getting looked over by our government at both the state and the federal level far too often. And we're being treated as an afterthought. Little people like me, coming from rural country communities, no family money to speak of, and not even having the time to dream, with the number of hours that are required to work to pay those living costs, are being left behind. Regardless of who I talk to, whether it's a potential juror, a local grocery store employee, the barista at a coffee shop, any small business owner across this rural community, or a union worker, everybody is feeling the same squeeze. Taxes on the individual are taking away any disposable income that you otherwise could have. Childcare is unaffordable. Wages are remaining stagnant, barely rising enough to keep up with living costs every year. Homes are unattainable. We are all feeling the same squeeze. I hear it from every person I talk to, from the east side of District 55 to the west side. I think this problem has been brought to us today, and I think it's pretty clear how it's been brought to us. Many in our electorate have become disengaged because we all feel left behind by our current politicians, regardless of political party. In a country with the refrain in our founding, a government built by the people and for the people, it is no surprise when our government starts to represent corporate interests over those of the everyday individual, the less engaged our electorate has become. Our democracy needs our voices, but I understand that our electorate needs somebody that they can vote for that they actually believe in too. I see money from big corporations going into the pockets of so many politicians. I see those same politicians who take money from corporations and corporate PACs as the reason we find ourselves in a society that is so friendly and giving to corporations when it comes to tax cuts, rebates, and government-subsidized loans, and so disregarding of our everyday people. This is why I am a grassroots candidate. I will never take a donation from a corporation or a corporate PAC because as a lawyer, I know the importance of having no potential conflicts of interest. If I am elected to represent the people, it is essential that I never give the impression to anyone that I represent anybody's interests other than the constituents at heart in everything that I do as a representative. This campaign is sworn to only take individual donations from everyday people like yourselves. As a Democrat, some people might want to characterize me off that identifier alone as being maybe I'm anti-Second Amendment rights, or maybe I'm anti-police, or any number of things that go along with the characterization that comes with that title. I grew up in rural Indiana. I actually was involved in shooting sports back from the age of 12 until I was about 14 or 15 years old. As a part of shooting sports, I was required to participate in a full-day gun safety course before I was allowed to touch a shotgun, much less use them. As someone who has used guns, I am for safe gun ownership that ensures children who don't have a fully formed frontal lobe and adults with untreated mental health issues that are severe, like schizophrenia and severe depression, don't have access to firearms, and that those who do own firearms have the tools that they need to safely store them and know how to handle them when other people are around. As someone who went into law because of my passion for enforcing laws when it comes to the most vulnerable members of our society being victimized as a result of broken laws, such as women and children, I greatly appreciate the work that the wonderful women and men in our communities do to keep us all safe. Whether it's responding to emergencies like overturned vehicles, house fires, or calls reporting dangerous situations, I am deeply appreciative of those who do these jobs, and especially for those women and men who do them in a purely volunteer role because they just care that much about their community. And I especially appreciate those agencies who have suffered severe budget cuts in the last year as a result of Senate Bill 1, and they have just figured out how to reconfigure those budgets so they can keep showing up for us people and keeping us safe every day. Better times are ahead, but we need new representation to reach them. Representation who cares about the members of their rural community as much as the members of these rural communities care about each other. And as somebody who lives out here and sees everybody in these communities every day, I can tell you that is a lot. My life goals were never to become a politician. In fact, growing up, the first thing that I wanted to be was a mom. My present goal is to become your representative so I can lend my voice to helping right-side our society and make it a more affordable place for us all to live in, so rural Hoosiers can see their own American dreams and bring them to a reality. And my ultimate goal is to do the work and train up others to come behind me who are going to be able to carry that work forward further to the next step. I don't aspire to be in politics for the rest of my life. I dream of building a coalition of politically engaged people across our society here in Indiana, and especially in our rural community, that will sustain and grow over time, inviting new voices to lend themselves to democracy, and bringing the community's needs forward to the State House as each finishes the work that they were called to do for the people. I dream of a day where my daughter and your daughters and your sons will grow up with the nature that you and I grew up with, preserved for their enjoyment, where they can be near grandma and grandpa and their moms and dads and sink their hands into the rich soil of this rural community and see the fruit of their labors grow and build an economy that will sustain them, where they can sustain themselves and keep building those futures forward. Again, thank you all so much for coming out here today to support me in this campaign. I can't thank you guys enough.